Hello and welcome back to this damn food idealistic crusade. This video will be a top 10 for the James Bond official video release audio commentaries. So a top 10 James Bond audio commentaries from the official video releases from MGM UA through the years. The reason I wanted to do this is I'm a great fan of listening to audio commentaries, and the Bond tracks in particular are extremely rewarding, but unfortunately most people never really dig into them. They usually see the excellent John Cork and team produced inside documentaries that were done for the special edition packages. Originally supposed to be a release of Laserdisc box sets, but DVD came around, and so it got shelved and became the special edition DVD line. But while the documentaries are great and have the incredible Patrick McNeeb narrating them, they obviously can't get into every last scrap of detail, and usually you're left a bit wanting after it's been a great 30 minutes to an hour or so. So if you've ever felt that way, you've never tried the audio commentaries, what's amazing about them is they were primarily constructed from the same interviews and are a fantastic primary source from a lot of people who are sadly no longer with us or don't give a whole lot of interviews. So you usually get all the extra juicy details that were not in the official featurettes and documentaries and things. And this goes for the other films as well, because the John Cork produced materials are pretty much for the original 16 films. And then, of course, some, if not most, of the Brosnan era as well. And of course, there were other commentaries that predate those and come after those. And I had to do a lot of cheating and a lot of grouping together to get a ranking of 10, because I find it nearly impossible to just choose certain ones. There are some that are better than others, but they are all extremely rewarding and give you a great insight into the views at the time of production and things like that. The impetus for doing this was a series of conversations I did with the incredible Daisuke Beppu on his channel. So shout out to Daisuke. This was an idea he suggested in one of our, actually I think the last chat we did on Bond villains. So that was my inspiration for doing this, and top 10s are a fun thing to do. It's a fun challenge, and I don't really rank things, but it's a fun challenge to try and take on. So I decided to try and tackle the Bond commentaries, which there are a great many, and so this is only covering certain ones, and some I just grouped together by the series of which they were in. So this is technically more than 10, but I couldn't get it down to a simple 10. That might be a further top 10. I might have to do like ranking, or just a plain ranking of the John Cork produced special edition commentaries, for example. So with that being said, let's start at number 10. This is it seems like it's a rather dry and straightforward commentary at first, but as with most commentaries, it is actually quite revealing. So my number 10 is the Michael Apted director's commentary for The World Is Not Enough, first released here on the 1999-2000 special edition DVD, and has been ported over to the Ultimate Edition and the Blu-ray. Apted is very forthcoming about being not from the realm of an action director, and him being selected to do a James Bond film and trying to get more of the desired characterizations into the film and really focus on the performances to better suit the script, the story materials, the direction of the film, and sort of follow the attack on the role that Pierce Brosnan was going after, particularly in his third go-round. It's a very relaxed listen. The commentaries are always hit or miss with people. Some people love certain tracks, some people hate others. As long as it's not wasting my time and it's enjoyable to listen to, that's what I'm after. I don't need somebody just literally telling me the plot as it unfolds on screen. Most commentaries you listen to, unfortunately, don't give you a whole lot. So all of these I'm going over are all worth your time. All the James Bond commentaries are, but I selected here to start at number 10 because I feel Apted's track really gives you the the soul of the film laid bare. The world is not enough. Like this, his commentary is literally giving you every single facet that they tried to go after. Even if you're not the biggest fan of the film, I think it's a very rewarding listen, and this is where it first appeared. Coming in at number 9 is actually another track that seems like it's just going to be very straightforward, just two people talking in a room. But by the time you finished it, it's actually extremely revealing of the director's mentality during the making of the film, and it sort of alludes to some of the production troubles and nightmares that went on during the very troubled shoot. So that, of course, is the director's commentary by Roger Spottiswoode with Dan Petrie Jr. So it's the two of them talking for Tomorrow Never Dies. First released here. I'm trying to get the glare off on the original DVD. This is the special edition that ported that DVD. Sorry, it's hard to hold cases up and make sure you get the glare off. But again, this seems like it's going to be a very straightforward track, but there's a lot of great details. Spottiswoode will talk about how Robert Elswit had to combat all of the video screens and all of the Carver sets. And since they were shooting anamorphic and he wasn't used to shooting anamorphic, they had to really go through a learning process on how to give it the traditional Bond style, find a look of their own that wasn't like GoldenEye, but also combat the actual set design itself and how that reacts with anamorphic on 4 per 35 mil standard stock. And then also the challenges of editing digitally in the early days and how to pre-render the CG effects in 1997 when they were on an extremely tight deadline. This film went through an extremely troubled production, and it would be great someday to have like a commentary where everybody just cut loose and said everything that actually happened. You get a little bit of that alluded to here, but what's really interesting is hearing Spottiswoode's mentality, what he was going after, and it's in a conversational style because he's talking with a friend of his who's asking, actual general questions as well. But all the little technical factoids you get and all the insights are really rewarding. And by the end of the track, it adds up to really enriching the experience you have with the film. And then the more you read into the production history and the on-set rewrites and the drastic changing of the villain and the plot of the film from the original concept, it starts to make sense why we got the film we did. Some people have problems with Tomorrow Never Dies, which it's understandable. I think it plays better now than it did in 1997. I think it's really strong and really underrated and edited extremely tightly, which helps to hide a lot of that stuff, clocking in at under 2 hours. So it's a very nice listen. I do highly recommend it, and stick with it because there's a lot of little great technical bits throughout. Coming in at number 8 is a special track. This is one of 2 films in the special edition line that did not get the John Cork produced commentaries with the compiled interviews. Instead, this is a roundtable discussion between the major crew or key personnel from this film, and they did it for 2 films. So there are 2 films in the special edition, and thus all the later releases that don't have the fancy multi-person interview John Cork produced track. So at number 8 is the track for Moonraker here on the special edition DVD. This track features Lewis Gilbert, the director of the film, Ken Adam, the legendary set designer, or production designer, I should say. Then, of course, you have Christopher Wood, the screenwriter of the film, who had also worked on The Spy Who Loved Me as well. And you also have co-producer Michael G. Wilson. And it's a really lively, fun track. And they tell anecdotes. They have memories come back to them as the film plays out. It's a wonderful listen, and of course, all the more to be treasured because most of these individuals are unfortunately and very sadly no longer with us. So it's just incredible being able to sort of peek behind the curtain and also get the decades after the fact memories of these legends talking about these films we think we know every facet of, but it's amazing to get to their perspectives. So it's a really rewarding listen. The only sad part is it sort of took the place of the official commentary for this film and the next track on this list. So of course number 7 is the first of these. The same individuals do a commentary roundtable for The Spy Who Loved Me. So this is exactly the same thing I said about Moonraker, but just ridiculously fun and rewarding and entertaining, and it's just fun hearing them remembering stuff or having these memories come back as they're watching the film play out. So just really wonderful, rewarding, engaging, and so worth your time. It is just an absolute gem. Coming in at number 6 is one that I think kind of flies under the radar and is very, it's not dry, but it is very to the point. But it's a really rewarding listen, and by the time you finish it, you realize you've just learned a massive amount of information, and it really also, just with the rest of these, helps to enrich your viewing of the film, and that is the John Glenn solo director's commentary for Octopussy, which was first released and recorded for this special edition DVD here. It's been ported to the later releases, as all of these tracks so far have. Again, a real key factor in a commentary being a great commentary versus merely a good one or a passable one is, of course, the enjoyment factor. Is it enjoyable to listen to? Can you listen to it while you watch the movie? Or, like me, I usually rip commentary tracks and listen to them while I'm driving or doing the dishes or what have you, and then just envision the film in my head. So, of course, if someone is a great, talented individual but just drones on for 2 hours, it's not really engaging. John Glenn is a very down-to-earth, humble person and always has great anecdotes, and this is a non-stop start-to-finish track that is just filled with all of his directorial style. He explains everything in great detail, and of course the increased confidence he had, this being his second James Bond film. He didn't have the first-time jitters, if you will, of directing For Your Eyes Only. Glenn does talk about Octopussy quite a lot. He's done I believe it was a special issue of the MI6 Confidential magazine that he specifically wrote expressly about directing Octopussy. So you get that same experience here in audio commentary form. And this was the only one that he did. It's as a solo track. Because most of the films are just compiled from interviews or are multiple individuals in a conversational or roundtable style. So it makes this one even more special. And again, it's just jam-packed with information. Again, this has been ported to the later releases, and if you're a fan of Octopussy and you haven't listened to this yet, please do yourself a favor. You will not regret it. At number 5 is a heck of a fun, truly rewarding commentary. It features only 2 individuals, so it is the commentary track between executive co-producer Michael G. Wilson and Martin Campbell for GoldenEye, first released here on the AC3 Laserdisc Special Edition, ported over to all the other releases so you can easily listen to it. This is a unbelievably rewarding, informative, and engaging track, and it's all the more special because the whole time Campbell and Wilson are just cutting up and talking about all the headaches they went through. When the film gets to St. Petersburg, they're all of a sudden talking about how miserable the locations were and how freezing cold it was. So in between talking about Pierce Brosnan's performance and parts of the script and what they were trying to do and relaunch Bond in the 90s after the 6-year gap post License to Kill. So it's very revealing, it's very forthcoming, very honest and to the point, but also done with great humor and great honesty, and it's really endearing is what it is. If you've not heard this commentary track, this is just, it's a must listen. It's a heck of a lot of fun, and you learn a whole lot, and you really feel like you're sitting in the room with the two of them. When the commentary's over, you're kind of sad because you could sit through another 2 hours, 10 minutes or so of them talking about the film more. It leaves you wanting more. There's no real dead space, and it's really enjoyable because it's just the two talking, and they're obviously very fond of each other, which is, of course, most likely one of the major reasons why Campbell did not just direct one Bond film and was brought back later, because he was a great favorite of Eon's. So, of course, the commentary premiered here on the right analog track, but of course is carried over to the various DVDs and the Blu-ray as well. So, of course, at number 4, this is where you can tell I'm really cheating because I had to get all these in here and I could not simply pick just one. Number 4 is the entire John Cork and team produced commentaries. The so I should say the archival multi-person edited interview commentaries that were done for the initial 16 films. So basically accepting The Spy Who Loved Me and Moonraker because they had the roundtable commentaries. So, of course, starting with Dr. No and going through License to Kill in this style. They were originally commissioned for the deluxe collector's edition Laserdisc releases, which unfortunately we only got 2 of before the whole program was shelved due to the end of the Laserdisc format and the start of the DVD format at the turn of the century. So they were originally done for the Goldfinger box set here for the anniversary. So this has 2 commentaries. Some of the films have so much information and individuals that they're actually split into 2 commentaries. Sometimes they get labeled director commentary or cast and crew commentaries, but basically, depending on how many interviews there were and how long they were, they had to split into 2. So it started with Goldfinger here. So the analog tracks were the commentaries, and then that was so successfully received that they wound up doing the Thunderball box set, which matches beautifully. So the original idea was that they would have a CAV box set like these 2 for all of the first 16 films. That was the idea. But again, the format wound up ending, and even though they announced some and did the final THX run of CLV discs, basically what happened was all of this material and the documentaries, which were first created for Goldfinger and Thunderball on these box sets, this workload and project basically became the special edition DVDs. So if you ever wondered where the documentaries came from, all of this stuff was started for the Goldfinger and Thunderball boxes in the early to mid-1990s, 94, 95 respectively. And then the special edition DVDs started coming out with the extras packages that were supposed to have been on those unfortunately canceled Laserdisc box sets. So these commentaries, while they do cover pretty much all the same ground the documentaries do, they do in far greater detail and in the original individual's own words, and it's amazing hearing the full recollections of everybody. They are, as the commentaries state, edited for time and clarity. So basically, it's telling the story of the making of the film over the course of the commentary track, and then everybody's comments are edited together. Once they're introduced the first time, then they just kind of come in and out, and it follows the course of the film. And then on the titles that have a second commentary, usually it's grouped together. So track 1 will primarily be the director, with maybe some other people speaking as well to fill out the gaps. And then the second commentary will be more of the cast and crew and other people who simply wouldn't even fit in that first commentary track because there were so many individuals. They are one of the great primary sources of information on the James Bond films because, again, unfortunately, most of the individuals are no longer with us, quite sadly. And if you read the acknowledgments or the bibliography sections of most Bond reference books, you'll see they're referenced almost all the time because they are such a wealth of information. And if you've never listened to these and you've just stuck with the documentaries, you're really only getting like just a fraction of the information that's there, and they're just wonderful to listen to. I now listen to all of these every year when I do my series rewatch. I've now gotten hooked on re-listening to the commentary tracks, so now I don't watch the documentaries as much anymore because I grew up on those, but once I started listening to the commentaries, it was like getting the full meal instead of the really great appetizer. So really it's best to enjoy both, but if you ever wanted more information than what's in the documentaries, you have got to dig into the audio commentaries. And almost all of them, there's hardly a bit of wasted space because there's just so many interviewees and they're wonderfully edited together, so it just flows perfectly. They are some of the best commentary tracks in the history of the home video medium, but they are slightly eclipsed by 3 other entries simply because of just some special qualities and other things. But these are the real backbone of the James Bond film supplements, and John Cork and his team, again, there were so many individuals whose names I can't all remember at this point in time. They did such an incredible job when this was still an emerging part of the home video market. The notion of special features and actually generating new interviews and seeking everybody out. It had been around for some time, but it was still, even in the mid to late 90s, it was not something everybody did, not something every studio wanted to invest a lot of money in. So all Bond fans really have to, once again, give great credit and thanks to John Cork and Bruce Sibley and David Naylor and all of these people who put this material together, because if they hadn't, we wouldn't really have any of this, because sadly so many of the people interviewed are no longer with us. So it is an incredible first-hand primary source of just a treasure trove of materials. So at number 3, this is another of these special edition titles that had multiple commentary tracks. The first track by Guy Hamilton is fantastic, and if I remember correctly, has a little bit of other people speaking as well. But the reason why I wanted to highlight this, there's a very special secondary track, which is the track on the special edition, track 2, with the film's screenwriter, Tom Mankiewicz, who is... well, Live and Let Die is no secret, is my favorite film of all time. It was the film that got me into James Bond. It's the film that captured my imagination as a young child and got me into motion pictures in general. So it was all this one film, and I feel the 3 Tom Mankiewicz written or co-written films, the sort of Mankiewicz trilogy I like to talk about of Diamonds Are Forever, Live and Let Die, and The Man with the Golden Gun, or a particular section of the Bond history that really goes unheralded and is underappreciated and underevaluated. Of course, he did also contribute to both The Spy Who Loved Me and Moonraker as well in smaller capacities. But Mankiewicz was a brilliant writer and a hysterical gag man. I think one of the funniest people who ever lived, if you read into just his personal life and all the various hysterical jokes he would come up with. But he does a commentary track on here, Solo, the second commentary track, that is so warm, engaging, informative, honest, and completely blunt about everything, in the best possible way, and also very respectful of Eon and the film series and the Broccolis, and being allowed to come into this world as just a young American writer, who everyone usually called, the kid. And of course, this was the film that he wrote solo without any Richard Maybaum involvement. Of course, Maybaum was the great scribe of the series, and I think it's such a shame that Maybaum was never able to do a solo commentary of his own, because that would have just been a golden opportunity. So I really always appreciate getting to hear straight from the horse's mouth from Tom Mankiewicz, who, again, I think is... who was an unheralded genius, who was never truly appreciated, just as these 3 films never really get the adoration that they really deserve for being a particular subsection of not just the Bond history, but a certain necessary part of the Bond formula, that having a bit of levity and a bit of lightness, and having the fantastical action elements as well that you find in these 3 films. But it's just a fantastic track, and seeing as Tom Mankiewicz was one of the great Bond team veterans that I just would have given anything to have been able to have met once, just like Terrence Young and Guy Hamilton and Peter Hunt and Ken Adam and the rest of everybody else. It's just extra rewarding, and it has a special place in my heart because, of course, I always wind up defending the Mankiewicz era and the Mankiewicz scripts in the 3 films, and Live and Let Die, because it is my favorite film of all time. So that's why this is at number 3, just as a special side note, because I know it's going to be a track most people don't listen to, but it is extremely rewarding, not just to learn more about the film and its production, but also how Tom Mankiewicz approached the character, how a new writer coming in should approach the character and find new things, and how to write for the different actors, the differences between writing for Sean Connery and for Roger Moore, and so many various other things. He has a wonderful sort of outsider who becomes an insider's perspective on things, and of course with the various anecdotes that he tells, and his absolutely incredible wit, it makes it a lively, funny, hysterical track at times. So this is my number 3, which is Tom Mankiewicz's commentary for Live and Let Die. Number 2 follows along the exact same lines. This is simply because it is the sort of dream meeting or encounter that all Bond fans wish they could have had with a particular individual. Every single time I return to these commentaries, it is just as if you're in some mystical room somewhere where the entire tenure of this particular person plays out, and you're just brought into the room, and you just get regaled with anecdotes and stories and recollections. I'm of course referring to the 7 full-length audio commentaries that Sir Roger Moore recorded for his 7 James Bond films, originally released here on the 2006 Ultimate Edition DVDs. So all 7 have Roger Moore commentaries, and my word, these are just exactly what you would have always hoped and expected. Of course, it's one of my great regrets that I was never able to meet Sir Roger Moore, who has always been a great hero of mine, still is, of course. And of course, in situations like that, you don't even know what you would say, or you'd have so many questions you couldn't even get them out all at once. So this sort of takes the place of that in a way. And of course, they're wonderful because they're fully conversational, very down to earth, and some of them he just has a glass of wine and just talks about the film and whatever comes to his mind. And of course, is the most generous and kind, and to not just complimenting all of the various cast and crew in each of the films. And of course, it seems like he had almost a photographic memory for all these people, because he remembered practically everyone and would specifically mention their contributions, even down through the crew members, which is just something you don't hear people do in commentaries. But also he talks about his life experiences before and after Bond, and other memories and people he knew, and things that would have happened on the set, or things he was reminded of. These are just an absolute treasure. They are must listens, and of course, it's really amazing that all 7 films he took the time and did a commentary track for all of them, and they are full tracks. They are fully engaged. They are never dry. They are never dull. They are never boring, and goodness, that it's such an absolute treasure. And it really shows his unwavering commitment to keeping the Bond flag flying, unlike a lot of people who might have felt typecast or eventually gotten tired of talking about the same thing over and over. He always upheld the importance of the Bond series, and always helped in later years also to promote the new Bond films and various projects and things, and always was a positive force for, again, keeping the Bond flag flying. So the fact that he took the time and did a commentary for all 7 of his Bond films is just... it's incredible. It's like getting to have 14 some odd hours with the great gentleman himself. Something everyone wishes they could have done. I know I certainly do. And just an incredible experience to sit down and listen to all of these, which I now do every single year, because I can't stop listening to commentaries, and these are just ever so rewarding. Of course, these were recorded for the Ultimate Editions here, and they were ported over to the Blu-rays as well, so you can listen to them at your leisure in HD. But these are just Oh, they are so incredibly special. And it makes me hope that maybe other actors might follow suit. I know it would have been a stretch maybe getting Connery to have done one, but that would have been a real magical experience, I think, if Sean Connery had done an audio commentary. Pierce Brosnan did wind up doing a partial one, or at least most of one, for Die Another Day, and he did do the live question commentary for GoldenEye. But he admits commentaries are not really his his strong suit. They are very difficult to do and can be rather nerve wracking, as I very well know from doing my own. So that makes these all the more special that Roger Moore took the time to do so. And I have to admit, if I could somehow, some way, ever come up with some notion or means of getting Timothy Dalton to record commentaries for his two Bond films, that would just be, of course, glorious as well. But these are just so incredibly special, and that's why they're my collective number 2 on the top 10 James Bond audio commentaries. So we come to number 1, and it should be no surprise to most diehard Bond fans where I'm going with this. And again, I had to make this easier on myself by making it a collective top 10, so that's why all these are grouped together. I probably sometime down the road I should do a legitimate top 10 of just 10 specific commentaries, but I will go ahead and say, if I do that, all 3 of these will be in the top 10 and will probably be occupying the same place because they are the most indispensable of all of these. I am, of course, referring to what are typically known as the banned Bond commentaries. So, number 1 are the 3 Criterion Collection CAV audio commentaries for Dr. No, From Russia with Love, and Goldfinger, which are, of course, spines 124, 131, and 132, respectively. These are the CAV special editions that were recalled at the bequest of Eon and Cubby Broccoli himself. They were reissued as CLV versions without the extras, but they didn't have the commentaries on them. Now, these were not banned particularly for any salacious content or anything crazy, as is typically written about online or talked about or rumored. These were really more of a fact that it was very early for audio commentaries. In 1991, Criterion had been doing them for a number of years and had invented the whole process with their initial Laserdisc releases in the days of Citizen Kane and King Kong. But it was still not a very well-known thing outside of videophile and cinephile circles. So once these releases came out, basically word got back that Criterion had done their usual thing and gotten together key original personnel and recorded commentary tracks, and this had been done without the permissions of Eon and such. And so they just essentially asked, hey, can you just not keep these out anymore, which is really unfortunate because what's amazing about these is, of course, they are entirely unfiltered. So there's nothing particularly bad in them, but obviously they're unfiltered, whereas the official special edition commentaries are edited for time and clarity, which is the terminology they use. But that makes these all the more special. And again, these were with personnel who, some were available for the special edition tracks, but unfortunately, key members passed away before that whole project started. So you have involvement directly from certain key personnel in these tracks that were unfortunately had died in the interim. So it makes these incredibly special. And of course, they also have their own custom transfers and their own custom extras, most of which the materials did get ported over to the special editions and the later releases in various phases. But these commentary tracks have never been reissued. There have been a number of fans who have captured them from the analog tracks here and put them online. I believe they're up on YouTube now. So they are pretty readily available, but the best manner is to actually track down these releases and have a Laserdisc player yourself. It will still cost you quite a bit getting all 3 of these, but goodness, these are just absolute magic. So, of course, on Dr. No, it's the 3 tracks are slightly different, but the main personnel are the same. The actual narrator of the track differs between the three. But Dr. No, of course, features Terrence Young and Peter Hunt, Richard Maybaum, and Ken Adam. See if I can get this to focus here so you can read the actual credit. And then the great Bruce Eder, who did a good majority of the narration for most Criterion Laserdisc commentaries, is the host of the track and also has great critical insight when he talks about the film in between the interview pieces. And all of these were done for this particular release, so they had to actually go to the location and do, much more primitive style location recording with the individuals, so none of this was taped material. When you get to the special editions, they did have to use taped material. Of course, Terrence Young and Richard Maybaum both passed away after these came out and before the special edition started. The Dr. No track is really fantastic. It may be my favorite of the three, simply because everybody is just going full tilt and they reveal so much. And it almost seems like they had shot the film yesterday, which is just amazing. But it's just incredible hearing from these legends with the quality of being straight from the horse's mouth, and there is no filtering. Most of the material is covered in the official special edition commentary for these three that you get on the special edition DVDs and Ultimate Editions and Blu-rays and such. But not everything, and also the delivery is totally different because again, these are all fresh, unfiltered, straight from the horse's mouth. And I could listen to Terrence Young for a week and not be tired. I could listen to Peter Hunt for a week and not be tired, or Ken Adam, and I could listen to Richard Maybaum until the cows proverbially came home, and I still wouldn't be tired of it. So these are just incredible, and those are the primary reasons why. That's why these releases still carry a good premium on the used market, and you will have to be sure to get the 2-disc CAV versions of these as opposed to the CLV single disc ones, because they have identical covers almost, so it's very easy to get tricked into thinking you're getting this version when in fact you're getting the non-special edition CLV version. On From Russia with Love, the participants are again Terrence Young, Richard Maybaum, and Peter Hunt. This time it's hosted and narrated by Stephen J. Rubin, who, of course, is no stranger to James Bond fans, the author of really my childhood Bible, the James Bond Movie Encyclopedia, and many other Bond books and articles and works of Bond scholarship. This one is just as good as the Dr. No track. Richard Maybaum has more input on here because, again, it's less participants. What makes this one all the more special and touching is it's actually dedicated to Richard Maybaum. At the end, Stephen J. Rubin comes on and says, we finished recording this literally, I think it was just a few days or a week before Richard Maybaum passed away. So it makes his comments and this track all the more touching and impactful, and he is so direct and to the point. I really feel Richard Maybaum is one of the most unheralded heroes of the Bond series, and without his input, there would be no Bond series. He really was the voice of the cinematic James Bond. There really was no one else who had that level of contribution and understood the Bond character and persona that directly. And I think it's a quality no one's really ever fully captured since. And again, the quality of getting this material straight from the horse's mouth is just indispensable. When I first heard these commentaries, it was like, where have you been all my life? Again, these are just beyond worth their weight in gold. They are must listens, even if you know some of the material, because it does get covered in the special edition commentary. You haven't heard it quite like this. And again, hearing from these three, I could hear them talk for years, and still it wouldn't be enough. They were all completely fascinating. But this one, especially for the Peter Hunt and the Terrence Young, but especially for the Richard Maybaum contributions, and of course the track is dedicated to him. And then on Goldfinger, again, the same personnel, except this time it's Guy Hamilton, along with Richard Maybaum, Peter Hunt, and Ken Adam comes back. And it's narrated and hosted by Stephen J. Rubin again. Again, just as rewarding as the first two commentaries. And Guy Hamilton sounds very fresh. And again, there's that same unfiltered quality, and of course he hadn't done all the interviews yet telling the same stories that he would do for the special editions and the anniversaries and the reissues of Goldfinger and all the various Bond television documentaries and things. So it's interesting hearing everybody's opinion in 1991 in various locations, and just really thinking about the film seemingly for the first time in quite some time, and really getting into it. Again, some great comments from Peter Hunt and Ken Adam, especially talking about how they managed to get even some stolen photographs of Fort Knox, which of course is a hilarious story, but completely true. And then, of course, just some fantastic comments from Richard Maybaum, particularly in maintaining the darkness of the story and how to keep Bond alive while he's virtually a prisoner for most of the narrative, which is a problem a lot of people have pointed out, especially in more recent times. It's usually labeled as something that people find a problem or an issue. Well, that's something that they thought about back then, and Richard Maybaum talks specifically about that and how they had to work really hard to keep Bond alive in a story sense, and how to adapt Fleming's novel and make necessary changes, particularly in the whole villain's plot and scheme, which I think is one of the great works of screenplay adaptation. The whole notion of changing the robbing of Fort Knox to the irradiating of the U.S. gold supply, I think, is just absolutely astonishing. So all credit to, of course, Paul Dane and Richard Maybaum in that instance. And of course, Guy Hamilton has wonderful input. And again, you have that straight from the horse's mouth quality, and there are little tidbits that are not in the two special edition commentaries. So really, on all of these, you really should just listen to the Criterion tracks and the special edition tracks. So just listen to all of them. You won't be disappointed, even though some of these do cover the same materials. So these make up my collective number one for the best audio commentaries on the official James Bond films. Again, if you do want more information about the Laserdisc, I have done an exhaustive video series detailing my entire James Bond Laserdisc collection, where I go over each of these releases in detail and talk about the various versions and extras and releases and such. But again, the Criterion commentaries, they are floating around online, but if you do want to own them or you want them on disc, you will still have to track down these CAV special editions, which can get quite pricey, but if you're patient, they can be found on eBay and other places. Every once in a while, they pop up more around $20 each instead of the usual $50 or more each, but these are just, again, worth their weight in gold. If they're more than worth their weight in gold. So that does it for this top 10 James Bond audio commentaries. I hope this encourages Bond fans and non-Bond fans alike to dig into the wealth of material contained in the official audio commentaries. They are an absolute resource, a treasure trove of information, and it's amazing hearing directly from the original participants. I know it's not something everybody has done, so that's why I wanted to do this, to maybe encourage people to dig into the commentaries if they haven't before, and also because in our discussions, Daisuke kind of helped me get the idea. So this is also for Daisuke Beppu, so check out his great channel if you haven't already. So thanks, Daisuke, for the idea, and I will hopefully eventually maybe do some more of these in the future, and maybe perhaps later a more definitive ranking of the commentaries if everybody likes this video. So again, I know some of these I did cheat a little bit by grouping them together, but that was the only way I could feasibly make a grouping of 10, because again, they're all great. They're all worth your time. And they're all just so incredibly informative and interesting and exciting, and just enrich the world of the cinematic James Bond, and I couldn't do without them. So until next time, thank you guys ever so much for watching. Well, 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 do you need a commentary? I can see you don't. Well, now that you're here, you better give us a tow. We'll always be working on the company's time. This is no time for a commentary. For my next miracle,